Hello, it's been a while since I did a little vlog and I thought today I was going to go out and film, but the weather's a bit yucky. The camera doesn't produce such good videos on dull days, so a vlog. And I was thinking about the farmer protests which are happening uh, in much of Europe. They've been happening in the Netherlands, but they have a new government there. France, Germany. There's rumblings in Britain, but so far no real protests. India, elsewhere in the world as well. And it occurred to me that there are some things in common which are not being talked about. I mean, we know, like in the Netherlands, it was all about, the farmers were saying it was climate change, and the government, the EU government, was trying to make life difficult for meat farmers by having regulations which essentially put them out of business. They couldn't produce so many, or use so many nitrates or whatever it is. So, what's going on, really? I mean, we know the powers that be are going to be making us all eat insects or prawns or toxic ultra-processed plant foods at some point. Right, because while they keep eating meat, of course. But is that really what it's about? And I think, bottom line, no, it's about money, okay, and power. So that's what I want to draw the lines and just explain what I'm thinking, basically. When I talk about the powers that be, I suppose I'm talking about, like, the global elites, the unelected people at the EU, the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, who seems to be turning into some kind of medical dictators at the moment. And our governments are indeed signing away our rights to them. The United Nations and their 2030 protocol. I mean, yeah, the climate needs fixing, okay, but that's not what they're doing when they're trying to fix the climate. Oh no, that's not what they're up to. That's just what they're talking about. It's not what they're doing. Ever since World War One, actually, here, especially in the West, it's been clear to most people that our great and the good leaders are either fools or sociopaths, or both. And I'm here to tell you that nothing has changed, okay? That is still absolutely the case. And when you listen to things that wishy-washy Sunak says, right, or whoever, the president, or whatever, it's pure theatre. It doesn't matter what they say or do. They're not really in charge, or if they are, they're hiding what they're really doing. It's following other agendas. And they're happy to backtrack on things they say and say, oh, we won't do that. But a couple of years down the road, it happens because of some treaty in the background anyway. So that's how they operate. They say one thing, they do another. And people forget. So, when they're telling the farmers in the Netherlands that it's about climate change, or in France that they're, importing cheap wheat from Ukraine with to undercut the farmers and help Ukraine in the war effort, or in Britain where they're changing the subsidy schemes without actually putting in as much money. And they're allowing, because of a treaty with Australia, they're allowing sheep to be imported, or mutton to be imported cheaply, because in Australia they can produce it involving more cruelty to animals than is permitted in Britain. And so on. Okay, they keep on trying to get sort of this drugged up American meat imported as well, don't they? They'll manage it. But our glorious elites are really only interested in money and power, looking at their behaviour historically. So they are destroying especially the small farmers, and it's getting more corporate, and it's going to be taken over by bigger and bigger corporations, because really what they're trying to do is not fix the climate as such, but fix the climate in a way that allows them to carry on exploiting the world. You see, the real way to fix the climate would be to end corporate oligopolies and overexploitation and overproduction, and built-in planned obsolescence of products. So, whatever you buy these days, it breaks in a year or two and you have to buy another one. This is not necessary. Things do not have to be made so badly. And when you have to buy these new products, that's new resources being dug up, more energy being burned, more pollution, and more profit. Because that's what it's all about. It's really the continuation of colonialism and global conquest. Governments do it these days. Yes, they go to war, but really most of the time what they're doing is doing it by proxy. They have corporations dominate countries on their behalf. This really started with the British and the East India Company, which exploited India in particular. The East India Company had a standing army which was twice the size of the British standing army. And the East India Company conquered the Mughal Empire. Not the British, the East India Company. And so we have our Nestle, or whatever demonic corporation you wish to talk about, going out there, digging up resources, poisoning children, and all the stuff they do, right, these companies. Slave labour in China, and so on and so forth. Of course, our great and good leaders want this to continue. So they're fixing the climate in a way that allows it to continue. They're not really fixing the source of the problem, which is a system based on one of the 7 deadly sins: avarice, greed, the overweening desire for money and possessions and power. Unless they fix that, they're not going to fix anything. They're going to have to reduce the world's population, and how could that be done, I wonder? Well, they can start feeding us lots of toxic, ultra-processed plant food, which is billed as being healthy, but which contains all sorts of stuff which your granny would never have had in her kitchen. Okay? Back in the day when they used to eat actual food, people were healthier in some ways. Yes, there were various diseases then which medical science hadn't cured. We've got around a lot of those, but with the abuse of antibiotics, some will be making a comeback. That will help to reduce the population, won't it? With some modern medical innovations, that we've been having recently, I think there's going to be a big increase in various illnesses, as has been recorded already. And with us feeding ourselves toxic foods, that will help, but it probably won't be quick enough. We probably need, to antagonise Putin and people like that, Kim Jong-un and others, to really get the population down quickly. Yeah. So, anyway, I'm not against small-scale capitalism. I think it's fine, like family businesses and so on, but when it gets up to the big level, it becomes downright evil, because profit comes before well-being. A society built on the principle of well-being would be perhaps a good society, or certainly better. But one that's based on greed is not going to have a good outcome. It's just not possible. And I'm afraid that is what our leaders are fascinated by. And they are not interested in fixing the climate. They're fixing it for their corporate friends. This week, the world's annual average temperature was actually 1.5 degrees Celsius above what it was at the time of the Paris Climate Agreement, when they talked about actually what it was back in the 1800s. What they wanted to talk about at that point was stopping it getting above 1.5 degrees for the world, but we're there. Nobody's really talking about it in the news. It arrived this week. That's the annual average temperature on the planet, 1.5 degrees up. We're there. Is anyone saying, oh no? They're talking about rubbish in the news, aren't they? It's theatre. Bye for now.